Coming to you live from my apartment. It's Rob Has a Podcast, and now here's the guy who is hoping that the Mets bats smoke some Dodgers pitching like they're gauchos. Rob Cesternino, hello everybody, and welcome to our Friday night Amazing Race 27 recap episode number 3, all about Argentina Part 2. And here I am with a woman who may or may not have seen every episode of The Amazing Race 3 times. Here is the great Jessica Liese. Jessica, how are you?
Well, I am not going to tell you whether or not I've seen every episode 3 times because I don't want you to fire me and hire Justin.
Justin might be difficult to work with. That's what I'm have concerns about.
Yeah, that's the impression I'm getting.
Might be a little tricky to work with, but we will talk about that as we are in the midst of a season with a heavyweight battle on our hands between Team Texas and the Green Team, and we will see what goes on with some ominous, foreboding premonitions about what's coming up next week with the double U-turn, setting the stage up for next week's episode. But a lot to talk about tonight, Jess, as the dancers have to dance their way out of there. They might be going back to sleeping in the car pretty soon.
It looks like it, Rob, and I know you were a big fan. I know you must be pretty unhappy right now.
Yeah, I love them, and unfortunately, it did not work out. And I don't. How did they get so far behind everybody? I mean, they were like at the end of the episode last week. They were in what, 9th place? They were in, or
Right.
they were in 9th place, or they were in 8th place, I think. And then I think that the track stars were in 9th place, and then the cousins were in 10th.
Right.
And then somehow this week, they end up like 6 hours behind everybody else by the time they get to where the gauchos are.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that either. I wonder, if they just couldn't get to the bus station
Did
in a
they
timely
oversleep?
fashion.
I don't know. So we have a lot
Yeah.
to ask these guys, to ask Ernest and Jin in the exit interview coming up on early next week. So lots to talk about. We've got the chat room open here on robhasawebsite.com. Plus, we'll be taking your tweets, hashtag RHAP, and again, answering your questions on our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. Jess, how was your week?
My week was all right, Rob. It's been a fun week.
Oh, good. Maybe you started off, you made it sound like it wasn't that fun of a week.
Well, we got a good tribe swap on Survivor. We got inspired by a recent internet meme, I made bacon jalapeno mac and cheese for dinner, so it's a good Friday.
Wow. Sounds amazing. All right, so let's get into this, and I guess Ernest and Jin, I wasn't falling for it. I think I've gotten good enough with this Amazing Race editing where it was like, oh my God, hey, Ernest and Jin, they're starting to get their act together here. It seems like they're doing everything real quick.
Well,
And
I'm glad I taught you well.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm not falling for this fake out here. This is just like the hapless team. All of a sudden, the last 15 minutes are just flying through the course. Not buying it, Jess.
Yeah, I'm glad that your senses of observation there were keen enough to realize that they did not have a prayer basically from minute 1, which.
Yeah.
It's really hard, I think, to create any sense of suspense when you know that situation is kind of brewing in the background. So I think a lot of people tonight were just kind of hoping there would be a non-elimination leg, and it was very sad when there was not.
Yeah, with those guys, I mean, it was like 35 minutes into the episode, they hadn't even shown up at the first task. Like, teams were getting close to getting to the pit stop, and they hadn't even gotten there yet. And so, ultimately, even though it's made it seem like, was it Ernest that was getting everything together real quick?
Yeah.
They remained in good spirits, though. Ernest was, seemingly having probably the most fun with the task. He had a couple of comments when he got there, talking with the gauchos.
I'm not a meat smoker. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah, he's not a meat smoker. He's the opposite of Alec Christie, who is a meat collector.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah, I'm going! I'm trying to smoke my meat!
Yeah. So Ernest and Jin, sadly, I thought they were such big personalities. I really thought that they were going to be able to come in and have a good social game, make friends with people, and they were going to have to be able to dance when they needed to dance, and they were going to be strong when they needed people to be strong. I just don't understand what happened, Jess.
Yeah, I I feel like they were just kind of doomed from the first minute of this leg, and it was very, they didn't even bother to hide it this time, like not as well as they have hidden it before. But they really won me over this leg because they were so happy to be where they were, and they were having such a good time. Oh, Rob is frozen. Well, I'm going to assume that one of us is still live over the air, and so I'm going to keep talking until we get him back, just in case I am not the actually frozen one. So, chat room, which one of us do you see right now? Oh boy. So yeah, Ernest and Jen, really great attitudes. I liked them very much. I'm gonna find out what the hell happened. Chat room, what's going on here? Okay, I'm still here. Okay, guys, ask me some questions. Entertain me while I'm covering for Rob. And we're on a little bit of a delay here, so let's see what else we can talk about. Argentina. It is a great place. I missed it a lot this leg. The meat looked very good. Oh, there he is. There he is. Jess. Oh, thank God.
Here I am, Jess. Jess, I'm sorry about that. I went into the abyss. I don't know what's going on here tonight.
Well, we got to keep it interesting.
Yeah, it's a sign. All right, what did we cover while I was gone, Jess?
We covered Ernest and Jen's stellar attitudes and how they really won me over this leg.
Yeah, they took you this long to win them over? To be won over by them?
Yeah, I was a little skeptical. I think just knowing their reality show pedigree and knowing that being on TV was kind of the chief attraction there, I guess I wasn't giving them enough credit that they were also really game to go on this race around the world, and they seemed like they really wanted to keep on being there. So I very much enjoyed them, especially this leg, and last leg I was starting to come around on them.
Yeah, they were fun. They gave us a lot of sound bites. They were funny tonight. They gave us the titular title to the episode.
Where my dogs at? Where my dogs at? Last place ain't funny.
Last place ain't funny, Jess. Remember that always.
That should have been the episode title.
Last place ain't funny. Well, that's true. That we will never forget that last place ain't funny. But I'm looking forward to talking with those guys. But sad to see them go. But they really were not even part of the action. I mean, I don't think they were ever even in a scene with another team tonight.
Yeah, they weren't. They pretty much. I think you could tell just looking at the sunlight. Like you had the cheerleaders who maybe were the closest to them, and they would cut back and forth, and you could see that the shadows were a lot longer on Ernest and Jen.
Oh wow, Jess, you like the sundial approach to Amazing Race.
Exactly, like that's the easiest way to tell because they're never going to tell you what time it is, but you can kind of tell.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the action at the top of the race. Team Texas, of course, that we had the bum hamstring. Which of the guys was it? Is it Tanner or the other guy?
Tanner, who's
Josh,
the littler one with
right?
the hair.
Yeah. The Tanner is the one with the bad hamstring. How much do you feel like, from what we've seen tonight, that this is going to be an issue moving forward?
I don't think it is. I think they were smart this leg to kind of sit Tanner out for anything that was super physical. And I think that's something like you give it a couple of days and you could probably rub some dirt on it and you'll be fine. But yeah, I don't think this is going to slow them down all that much. They're thinking very strategically, and I think having an enemy to thwart is what's lighting a fire under them right now. And so it doesn't matter, like they could have their legs amputated, they could be like the Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and I think they'd still be trying to crawl toward this goal of defeating the green team.
I thought that something interesting came up tonight, where there was this plan that was concocted, and it looked like Justin and Diana, they ended up like trying to everybody got on the bus in one place. They went further down and caught the bus further on its way. But in the meantime, we see that Team Texas is striking up this deal with teams like, hey, if you're the team that U-turns Justin and Diana, we will give you the express pass after we use it.
Yeah,
what do you think of this?
This is idiotic. Like, I don't think they understand that if you U-turn somebody in the front of the pack, it's going to have absolutely zero bearing on who's there in the next leg. And all it does is, like, piss somebody off. And
Yeah.
I think you need to consider how that U-turn works. And I think Justin even said it himself. We'll just U-turn some other team that's behind us, and it's not going to have any bearing on how we do.
No, that's really fun because I feel like that we always talk about like, oh, what teams should know by now, and it really is interesting to see somebody in the show, in Justin, who says, I've seen every season 3 times, I know how this works, and these people, I'm assuming Team Texas, and please forgive me if they are secretly Amazing Race super fans, and we don't know this about them, but that they are showing some inexperience with the race with this plan.
Team Texas is not down with the JL rules, and I would say Justin is definitely down with the JL rules.
And from what it sounds like, Jess, it seems like that Team Texas is going to express pass, like burn the express pass to get in front of the green team so that they can U-turn them.
Yeah, and then what's that up ahead? Oh, that's karma, and it's going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. And I would not be surprised to see them like burn their express pass, burn their U-turn, and then the very next leg get stuck on something, like get some sort of haystack task that they're stuck at forever, and then they get eliminated the next leg.
Well, they seem very concerned that Justin is going to U-turn them, so they feel like there's a bit of like a is it a prisoner's dilemma? Is that the fair?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. But Justin's mama didn't raise no fools, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to do that. He's not going to bother to.
Well, but in their mind, I think that they think, well, we got to get them before they're going to get us. If they get to the U-turn first, they're going to U-turn us, and we're going to have to use our express pass at that point. So we should use the express pass first, and then use the U-turn on them.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly their rationale, but it's idiotic.
Yeah, because we've established that Justin is not going to do that here on the first double U-turn of the race.
No. Anybody that's seen every episode of The Amazing Race 3 times is not going to bother.
Yeah. So that's going to be very fun to watch. I really love this sort of like heavyweight battle at the top of the race right now. Just, do you feel like will these teams just keep trading off first and first until we get down to the final 3?
You know, that's not always very entertaining to watch, but we haven't had that happen in a really long time, so it'll be interesting. I would say we've got a lot of other teams that are moving up the ranks that are contenders to get a couple of first-place finishes, and I really hope that happens because that's not the greatest TV. I like a good rivalry, but I also like it when there's a lot of competitive teams.
But I kind of feel like there's no clear-cut third-best team. Like there is at the top Team Texas and the green team, and then I think there's a big gap, and then we could start talking about like who is in the mix for number 3.
Yeah, I think so. And, usually we have, like, a pack of 4 in the front. And then we have, like, another, 3 or 4 in the middle, another 3 or 4 in the back that are basically, like, cannon fodder. And, Rob, you're frozen again. But I'm just going to keep talking here because I can talk about this for a while. I've got more information on this. We can say pretty comfortably this is starting to look a little bit like Season 9, where we had the hippies, and we had Eric and Jeremy, and they kept trading off first, second, first, second, first, second. And I didn't think that was particularly exciting because I kind of lost track of all the other teams. So I'm thinking maybe I would like to see somebody step up. I think Kelsey and Joey could step up. They had a really great leg this week. I think Jack Attack could step up. I mean, look at Rick nailing that meat challenge. It was pretty spectacular. So I think we got a lot of great things coming up. I think somebody, we don't have a whole like front pack yet, but I think somebody could work their way in. Absolutely. Oh, there's Rob in the chat room. So I'm going to keep talking some more, and we can take some more questions. Maybe I should move over to the YouTube questions. There was something that I did want to bring up, and while we wait for Rob to sort out his terrible internet, we can work on this.
Yes. Can you hear me now, Jess?
Yes, there you are.
Sorry about that. I think this is a sign from my dad that we should be watching the Met game and not podcasting.
I don't know, Rob. My loyalties are divided tonight.
Yes. No, we have a job to do. We have a job to do.
Yes, we do.
All right, I'm sorry. So so catch me up. Where are we?
I was saying there are absolutely a couple of teams. They're not in the front of the pack yet, but they could get there.
Yeah. Who do you think is the third best team right now if you had to pick one?
I would probably go with Motherboy. They had a rough leg this week, but their first 2 legs were awesome. And I have little doubt that if they can sort out their issues, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I would say that I think it's Kelsey and Joey. I feel like that they have started to come on strong, and I feel like, unlike Motherboy, who seems to be going in the wrong direction, I feel like Team News. What's their hashtag?
I think our hashtag is News Team Assemble.
News Team Assemble. What's theirs?
I think theirs is just like the newscasters or the reporters.
The reporters. I feel like they're moving in the right direction. I feel like they're trending.
They are. Well, that was what I was saying while your internet was terrible. I was saying that they're kind of on an upward climb right now, and they are getting better and better every leg. And I think that's a team you got to watch out for. And I think the Chacks are kind of the same way. Like, they are starting to figure it out, and they're starting to get into the swing of things.
Yeah. Jack Attack had a bad mistake, though, tonight.
Yeah, they did, but that roadblock, Rick on that roadblock, I was so impressed.
Yes, very impressive that his surgical skills came in handy with what were they working with? What was that, Jess?
They were working with a rack of ribs and, like, 2 dead lambs.
Yeah, and so very good, really put it together well. I felt like this was something. I felt like Ramsey Bolton. I felt like would have been really good here in this task.
Oh yeah, this was made for Ramsey. We got the flayed lamb.
The flayed lamb. Yeah, that was his. Is that the Chack symbol?
Yeah, maybe that's the sigil for House Chack.
Yes, I think so. But you knew somebody was going to forget the polo, whether it was the polo. What is it? Polo club?
Yeah, the polo mallet.
Polo mallet. Yeah, mallet. You knew somebody was either going to forget that. It turned out that nobody forgot their polo mallet, but 2 teams ended up having incidents with the whip, leaving that behind, where Chack Attack did not leave with it, and then we had the cheerleaders who left it at the where they were working on the carriage.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, Rob. What did you think about the way they set up this detour here, where they had objects that you had to grab and take to the challenge, and there were a limited number of them? Like, how do you feel about this?
Well, we've seen this a bunch of times before, where there's only 4 teams that could do this. There's only 6 teams that could do this. Like last week, we had with the carts that there were only so many carts, and then you had to go do the other thing. So yeah, I don't mind it. I kind of like that they have to do half and half. Like I feel like with the cart, I feel like there were like 8 carts with 10 teams. I like that there was only 6 with this. Just which did you think was the easier task of these 2 tasks?
I think it was the carts. To be honest, it looked like
so.
Those looked like they might have been heavy, but then you saw the cheerleaders just push them like they weighed nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that was, as long as you remembered your whip.
Don't forget.
Yes. I know they're athletes.
Yes. They'll remind you.
They have reminded me in the past. I think as long as you remember your implement, that was the easier one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for these teams that were doing this task, why do you think so many of them went with the horse task? What was it that seemed appealing?
I think there's a lot of factors that you don't see when you're picking, and I think maybe it might have been closer by. Or maybe they thought, dress up a fake horse and move the fake horse back to the square. Like, when you get the descriptions, you don't get a detailed description right away. So you kind of have to go on the basics, and I think if you thought about it really hard, you might say, prepare a wagon and pull a whole wagon. You're thinking horses do that, and the horses look tired when they're done, right? So what chance do we have as people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I did like for the Chack Attack, I felt like it was a missed opportunity when we had Rick pulling the wagon to call it a rickshaw. So that was good.
That would have been pretty good.
That would have been good. We also had a time penalty in this episode tonight. We had where Team Motherboy. Let's talk about them. Denise and James Corley.
James Earl.
Yeah, as he's now called James Earl. all the time.
That's such a charming thing that I like about the South is you give someone a middle name and then you use the middle name.
Yeah.
Up here in the North, they give us a middle name and then we kind of forget we have it, right?
Yeah, and so we have now in this episode, James is working with getting the meat ready to smoke, and Denise is trying to help out. And what does she yell out?
She yells out something about look at which way the ribs are facing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing that he had wrong. And this is the first time we've ever seen that, and it shocks me that, we are 27 seasons into this show, and this is the first time that this has ever happened.
Yeah, that seemed like that was a little ticky-tack to me to call a penalty on that. I mean, do you think that the violation was do you think that they were warned repeatedly, hey, don't do that, stop, you really can't do that, to the point that they had to throw the flag on this?
It's possible. It's possible, but I'm trying to think back. Like, I don't remember ever seeing anybody kind of toe that line before.
Yeah, I feel like it's the kind of thing that I could see Denise being warned a number of times and then her forgetting that she was warned.
Yeah, I think she is the kind of person that gets very excitable and kind of forgets herself in the heat of the moment.
Now, James said that he felt like he was upset with Denise because she was yelling at him during this leg. Did you see that?
Well, we got a lot of James Earl, James Earl, James Earl.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we've had other teams that have done that in the past. So yeah, it did seem like we probably didn't see all of it, but we saw enough of it to know that he probably had a legitimate claim to some sort of tension between the two of them.
Yeah, he was very upset during the 30-minute time penalty.
Yes, and I could see that because it was her fault. She's the reason they had the penalty.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know how far behind everybody else is. This could be the reason they get eliminated. So I could see why he would need to not talk to her in that moment.
But in the scheme of things, they were, fourth, and they ultimately ended up being fifth, or they were fifth and they ended up being sixth?
Yeah, they were fifth, and the paparazzi checked in ahead of them.
Yeah, and so I know that there's only 9 teams there, but you have to feel like it was not the end of the world to get that 30-minute time penalty.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and so we'll see. Do you think that this is just the tip of the iceberg? I guess you don't, because you feel like that they could be potentially the third best team in the race right now.
Porque no los dos, Rob. It could be one of these teams that yells at each other all the time and makes it very, very far. We've had a lot of those.
Yeah. Do you think that the pinky promise was effective for Team Motherboy?
Well, couldn't hurt.
It didn't help, though.
Yeah, well, they are the pink team.
Is that what it was? Was it a play on words?
Yeah, I think it was a very clever play on words.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the other teams that we saw tonight. We saw, obviously, a struggle for the cheerleaders. Do you see a rally coming for them? Could they use some more team spirit, Jess?
Yeah, I think, I'm surprised, they are not doing great, but they seem like their attitudes seem like they're really great. They seem like they still feel like they're in it. They still have some confidence there.
Yeah, it does seem like they have not lost hope, and really that could have been a real demoralizing moment when they realized that they left the whip so far behind.
Yeah, and that was another moment where they don't know where Ernest and Jin are. They could certainly have been eliminated if Ernest and Jin hadn't been so catastrophically terrible at finding a bus.
Yeah. Jess, I almost had a breakdown this morning. I was at Trader Joe's, and Nicole had given me a shopping list, and then I realized that when I was in the store, I had left it in the car, and I almost just gave up and didn't even want to go back to the car and go do that. So I have to give a lot of credit to the cheerleaders and Jack Attack for hanging in there.
Yeah. Did you go back and get the list?
I did, but I was really annoyed.
Fine?
I was like, oh, come on, it's so far.
Now, see, if that had been me, I would have just bought a bunch of pumpkin crap and taken it home and been like, yeah, this is. I decided I didn't like your list. We're having pumpkin cereal bars forever.
And come back without something on the list? Are you crazy?
I'm crazy like a fox.
Yeah, you think that it was bad between Team Motherboy? Wait until you see what happens to me. I'm not gonna get. I'd be praying for a 30-minute time penalty at that point.
Yeah, that's true. You don't want to piss off a woman who's 9 months pregnant.
Yes. And they say, well, I gave you the list. All right. So let's talk about a couple of the other teams. For the track stars, quiet week. Not much going on there.
Yeah, it was kind of like we got our cursory shot of them, so we know that they're not, somewhere else.
They're still there. We mentioned briefly the reporters. I feel like that they are starting to come into their own. And if I had to put money on one of these teams coming in and stealing a first place, I feel like maybe they're positioned the best right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they were one of my early picks to go far. So yeah, I'm liking this. I could see them pulling one out. I think Logan and Chris have a lot of potential too. Although they had a really rough first half of the leg this week.
Yeah, Chris was really struggling with the barbecue.
Yeah, he had a little more quit in him than I thought.
Yeah, well, it did look very hard, to be fair.
I don't know.
You don't think?
I think other teams had an easier time with it.
Was this roadblock a tough roadblock in your mind?
Well, there was a little bit of physicality. It was a tough roadblock. There was physicality and there was details. Usually the roadblock is one or the other.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on there. What were they going to do with all that meat?
I don't know. Maybe they're going to have Boston Rob over.
To go to the Boston Rob Market?
Yes.
That looked like I hoped they were going to feed the Amazing Race crew or something with that. I don't want all that food to go to waste.
Look at how many times they dropped that thing on the ground. I don't think I would want to eat it.
And then the dogs were like eating it right there. It was like eating it off the bone.
Yeah, I don't think they should feed that to anybody, Rob. Maybe they'll feed it to the dogs.
Jess, what has been your experience in Argentina with the dogs?
It's weird. The dogs are more prevalent in Chile. Like all over Santiago, they have stray dogs that are pretty well fed and they're pretty friendly. But you see a little bit of in Argentina as well. Just kind of stray dogs running around wild, and they're used to people, so I think people do feed them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's unusual.
Oh, my dog's back. Last place ain't funny.
Somebody's got to auto-tune that.
Speaking of last place ain't funny, when I was in Argentina, when I was on the pre-jury trip with Tina and Rudy after Survivor All Stars, and we were in Patagonia. Like I used to I had nothing to do. I used to go like jogging, and I used to go like run around, and then like a bunch of stray dogs would follow me, and they were nice.
Yeah, they're friendly. They're not like the kind of stray dogs that'll like eat your face.
Yeah, no, I liked them. It was fun. They were just like follow me. They just like follow me around. That was cool.
Yeah, communing with nature in a way that maybe you never even did on Survivor.
Yeah, definitely not on Survivor. Okay, in terms of Team Justin and Diana, we talked about them in terms of their battle with Team Texas. But overall, what are you thinking in terms of how they've been doing so far?
Well, the thing that really impresses me about them is that we've had so many teams before that claim to be huge fans of the show that end up not knowing like some little basic thing, but Justin is airtight. Like he knows all this stuff. He's got it down. What it really interests me about them is how polarizing they are. Like how many people cannot stand this guy, and also the fact that it's basically like I know that Diana is on the show, but she's the Monica Padilla of this season of The Amazing Race. Like
Green Diana?
Yeah, Green Diana.
Yeah.
It's like Justin is running the race by himself.
He does sort of absorb all of the airtime for the green team.
Yeah, he does. And he's a huge personality, and the thing that I wish he would stop doing, though, is he's really still very, very aware that there's a camera on him at all times. And he's like, oh, if there's a camera, I must be entertaining you. I must be saying funny things, and I must be, like, dancing around and, mugging and being and emoting. And it's like, no, chill out, guy. Relax, run your race, and we'll like you anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I think the harder you try, the harder it is.
So you feel like he's laying it on a little thick with every greeter, every judge, and stuff like that?
Yeah, and I think some of that is just who he is. Like, he seems like he's a naturally gregarious guy, but he's playing it up a lot.
Yeah.
And he's like, episode 1 Rob Cesternino of Survivor the Amazon. Like, you calmed down, we all liked you a lot better.
What? People didn't like me at first?
I liked you better towards the end of the season.
Okay, all right. Well, I appreciate that, I guess. But yeah, he's excited. He's on the Amazing Race. But is this?
Yeah, well, who wouldn't be?
Well, I just want to talk about this in terms of, is this one of the things that is making the other teams not like them as much?
That is one of the things. And I think if you have somebody who's doing that, they're a lot easier to take if they're not kicking your asses.
Mm-hmm.
And
now,
they're not only annoying, but they're good, which makes them more annoying.
Is that the biggest thing that's getting on people's nerves?
I think you see little glimpses, and I don't know if this is editing or what, but you've seen little glimpses of Justin being a little bit snarky and maybe on the wrong side of the funny mean line.
Like, give me an example.
Like, he was saying something while they were waiting for the roadblock last week. He's watching Diana do the tango roadblock, and they're waiting for Tanner to finish his thing, and he says something kind of snarky about how they don't have it, and they're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, that's a little bit, I think it's okay to want yourself to do well. I think you come off less well if you want other people to do poorly. You know the difference?
Yeah, I got that. Just anything else from tonight's episode before we jump into some questions?
I'm surprised that you didn't pull the... I tweeted this. I'm surprised you didn't pull the line about you take the front, I got the ass. And I also surprised you didn't get the line about how dusting is better than doo-doo trash.
You know, I had so many quotes in a row from those guys. Okay, this is overkill. But I did...
Okay, let's go. I got the ass. You get the front.
Yay!
I went back and looked for it for you.
Thank you, Rob.
I got the ass. You get the front.
Yeah, so quick from I want to make sure I get from Denise.
Yes.
Denise. Okay, let's take some questions here as we go along tonight with our Amazing Race 27 Episode 3 recap. And here's from Eric, and Eric is asking about the dogs. He loves all the dogs. He says it was because they were handling the meat that the dogs could smell it. Was that what was going on?
Yeah, that was some of it. And also the dogs just it's like interesting people.
Yeah. They're happy to be around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's excitement. What's going on? I mean, that's how dogs are. You have a dog, you know.
Yeah, but we don't like her. Okay, this is from Thomas. Wants to know, is Justin just a camera whore? And I don't know. I guess there's a picture of Justin doing something camera whorish.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Hard to tell without the evidence.
Yeah. Just maybe a little bit, but I also think he's probably of all of the racers on the cast. If I had to go have a beer with someone, I think I would want to have a beer with the green team because they seem like they would be a stone riot to hang out with.
Sure. I mean, that the people that are probably the hardest to get along with are probably the best podcast guests.
Yeah, that's true, and I can't wait to have them on the podcast.
Yes.
Oh, we have confirmation from James Earl in the chat room that the dogs were into everybody because of the meat. Everybody smelled like meat.
There you go.
Thanks, James Earl.
Yeah. All right. Then from George Wise, what do you think of Phil revealing spoilers for the next leg of the Amazing Race? Yeah, that should the team just said, Phil, spoilers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, talk about this, Jess. Is this unusual for Phil to let people know what's going on? I mean, isn't this kind of like at Tribal Council, Jeff Probst saying all right, well, you guys made a interesting vote tonight, but coming up tomorrow, we're going to have a tribe swap, so let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, it really was. Phil was instigating in a way that Phil doesn't usually instigate. I was a little bit surprised by that, but I guess I can see the producers in his ear being like, "Hey Phil, those two teams really don't like each other. They're standing next to each other on the mat. Do something with this." And Phil just running with it.
Yeah, Phil really trying to stir the pot to get some conflict going at the top of the race.
Yeah, that's so not a Phil thing to do. It's like Phil, that's beneath you. You're not Jeff Probst.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I could see, and I really do like a good rivalry. So I'm happy to see this continue. I want to see these guys go at each other. I think it makes for a much more interesting season when you have some kind of faction like that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very fun to watch.
I want to see other teams get involved though. Let's get some rivalries going on, like Sharks and Jets.
That's next Sunday. Okay, Nick 2S says, have we ever seen a penalty for giving illegal help before at a roadblock? Jess, you said that you can't recall a time when this has happened, right?
No, I can't remember a time when this has ever happened before.
Yeah. I wonder, again, if James Earl is in the chat room, I'd love to hear whether, what number warning was that before the time penalty was administered.
Yeah, I would love to know that as well.
Okay. Spanky Hot Dog says, no, I love the dancers. Any chance we see them on another unfinished business type season?
I could see it if they... Well, the problem is that that's a demographic that they don't have a hard time casting. Like, there's always young guys with big personalities. They always have, like, spares of those to bring in, and it's very rare that you have someone that goes out that early get another chance. Like, there have been, I think, 2 or 3 teams that went out that early, and I really couldn't see, like, I think between now and then, and God, I hope between now and then there are going to be a lot of teams that fit that mold, and I think they're going to have a lot of stiff competition when they're trying to cast, a team of younger, strong, fit men that say funny things. Like, we have those a lot.
Yeah.
Last place ain't funny.
Yeah. I don't think those guys had enough of a moment or a story to bring them back. I don't know the history of the race in terms of the people that they bring back, but have they ever brought back a team that was out this early? I guess John and Jessica were. I feel like they went more than 3 episodes.
Yeah. Dave and Connor were about this time. And we had a team that went out on a U-turn very, very early. That was like a young dating couple, and they needed more young dating couples, so they threw them on there. And Zev and Justin went out this early.
Okay.
I think Zev and Justin were 9th place in their season, but they had a good story. Like, there was a really good reason why they went out and why they would want to come back.
You need a good story. That's important. Okay.
Yes.
George Wise wants to know, was the detour naturally unbalanced, or did it seem that way because teams just kept messing up?
I think it was just that teams kept messing up.
I don't think it was incredibly unbalanced.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think it wasn't too far out of whack. Shay Renee says, do you feel like this episode was a big what not to do on The Amazing Race? Example, penalties, direction mistakes, unnecessary feuds, leaving items and not reading clues. It was painful yet entertaining to watch. Jess, were you screaming at the TV watching this tonight?
I don't really scream at the TV anymore. I have to save my voice for podcasting. But I do see her point. It's much more entertaining when you see the reason that teams are finishing the way they are. And I think last leg we were missing a little bit of that because we didn't have a good reason why the back 3 teams finished the way they did. And this time we know what everybody did to get them where they were. With the possible exception of the dancers, but we know the broad strokes. We know that they got on a later bus than everybody else, and that's why they were in the back.
Okay. John Johnston, what's a better chore, dusting the carriage or picking up doo-doo?
Dusting the carriage.
Yeah.
Oh, woo! There's doo-doo in here.
Okay, we've got the report from James Earl.
Okay. Yes.
He says the worst part was that he never actually heard her say that during the roadblock, which you could kind of see. Like, he figured it out on his own. And he says, it's just part of the rules. I don't think I can dive too deep into that, but it's definitely a rule.
Okay.
And he's just happy they survived, and we are happy too.
All right, so what it sounds like is that they were not warned many times. It was sort of a...
they did not get 12 warnings.
Justice was swift and quick.
Yes, swift and brutal. I'm really happy that they're still here. And it does suck that he didn't even hear it. Like, at least if you're going to get the penalty, at least, like, get something to show for it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Swanky Martini. He says, if the Texans do decide to U-turn Team Green, what are the odds of it being a successful endeavor? I mean, well, what's successful? That Justin and Diana lose the race next week? I mean, sure, anything is possible, but I mean, I feel like that they're so far out in front. They're such a strong team. I mean, what are the chances that they lose the race after being U-turned? What, 10%?
Yeah, I think the chance of that happening are pretty slim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, unless one of the roadblock tasks is just incredibly difficult, but I have to think that, or one of the detour tasks is incredibly difficult, but I can't imagine that's the case.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're just going to see we're just going to see them like have to do 2 tasks and be grumpy about it, and then be like, in your face, Texas, we're still here. What now?
Yeah, what now? How about that? All right. Ryan Hilliard says, Rob and Jessica, what's the best move for Team Texas going forward regarding the express pass and the double U-turn?
They need to just put their heads down and race.
Do they need to use the express pass by a certain point? Are we coming up to that point?
We are getting up to that point. I think it was leg 5 they have to use it by, so they're getting up there.
Okay, so they're going to use the express pass no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to use it soon, and then they have to pass it on.
Who do you think they're going to give it to?
I could see them just... I'm not actually sure who they would give it to, honestly.
I think it'd be funny if they said to Justin and Diana, say, you know what, that let's let bygones be bygones, and we're going to give you guys the express pass. And Justin's like, really? And they're like, no, psych!
Yeah, are they going to do that like Big Tom thing where they like pretend to comb their hair?
Yeah, I think so. Like, don't be stupid. Yeah, we're never giving you an express pass.
Yeah, I don't think
the reporters are the people that they had the conversation with them. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I don't know how seriously the reporters took that. Like, it seemed like they were kind of rolling their eyes afterwards, but we'll see.
All right, Jess, a couple more questions. This is from Jeremiah M. Are we being set up for an underdog run by Tiffany and Krista? They seem to be getting more screen time than many of the teams like the track stars, the paparazzi, and the reporters. Is this a case of they're sort of getting the underdog edit, or are they just having more interesting mistakes than some of these other teams?
Well, they are making interesting mistakes. I got to give them that. As to whether or not they're going to be underdogs, like there always is that one team where you're like 7 or 8 legs in and you're like, why are these guys still here? They could be the Chuck and Winona of this race. Oh, Rob, you're frozen again. I hope this is fast. We could take another question while we're doing this. Alex G wants to know, does limiting detours to only a few teams punish teams that don't race for first? It forces them to get to the less popular detour. It's an interesting point, and I think the show might be a little bit too obsessed with getting everybody to do different detours to make sure all the detours get highlighted. I think that's a little bit shady, and especially I didn't like the way that they did it last week where 8 teams could do one of the tasks and then 2 teams had to do something different. Like, that seemed a little bit shady. This one, at least, there was kind of an equal-ish number, and everybody had a choice except for the people in the back. So honestly, I also don't think that the teams are always the best judges of what is the best roadblock or what is the best detour and what is the worst detour, because you don't necessarily know just by looking at them. And I think frequently you see teams all pick one that they think is easier, and then one team does the other one, and the other one turns out to be incredibly easier. So that's definitely a possibility. In the chat room, I see that Jeff asks if I can recall any time where a 30-minute penalty eliminated a team where they were in the front of the pack. Well, where they were in the front of the pack, maybe not, but in a very early leg.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
I feel like I'm getting a 30-minute time penalty.
Yeah, you are. I was just talking about one of the very early seasons. I want to say it was season 6. It was either season 3 or season 6. There was a team that they took a taxi instead of walking. They got a 30-minute penalty, and everybody passed them. So someone correct me on that. My brain's a little bit fuzzy right now, what with all this having to stand in for Rob, who's frozen again. I'm going to continue to take questions because that's all I can do. Yeah, Rob is sorry. I know you are, Rob. You'll get back in when you can, and I'll catch you up. Mr. Coaster 1 says, with all the dogs in tonight's episode, shouldn't there have been a dog-related challenge? And to that I say I'm very disappointed in all of you conspiracy theorists out there because nobody yet has said anything about a final memory task, and I was sure someone was going to be like, final memory task, it's going to be all the dog-related quotes. I don't know, guys. I do find it curious that 2 weeks in a row we've had people referencing dogs in various ways. And maybe the trend will continue. Maybe it's like one of those things where, they talk about dogs and we tell stories about me getting kicked out of cabs. I don't know. So Jeff wants to know, eastward routes or westward routes, which ones do you guys prefer? That's an interesting question. That's pretty good because this is something I actually had to do a little bit of research on this once. And it's interesting that the eastward routes usually happen in seasons where they have to film in the winter, and the westward ones generally, or the westward ones happen when they film in the winter, and it was kind of an even-numbered, odd-numbered, and I was able one season to predict almost the entire route just based on which direction I knew they were going, where they were gonna, where they hadn't hit in a while. I personally, I think the westward ones where they go to Asia first, I think those mess with people a lot harder. I think that's more interesting to watch. But the eastward ones, they ease people in, and I think you get a lot more time to know the teams rather than just watching them freaking out about the time difference and the culture shock.
Jess, what is it? What is it about going the opposite way that really messes with people?
Well, it's the time difference, really, because you get hit with a much longer flight right out of the gate, and you get off the plane and you're totally disoriented. You don't really know what's going on or where you have to go, whether it's day or night or whatever, and I think the sleep deprivation really hits people a lot harder. Plus, you're usually going someplace, like if you go to Europe, that's usually, everyone speaks English, it's clean, it's like everyone recycles, everyone is, relatively friendly to you, as opposed to going to some place where not everybody speaks English and where it might be more crowded and very, very different from what you're used to. So I think if you throw all the teams into that pressure cooker right away, I think that is more entertaining. But you get to know the teams as the teams a little bit better if you go the other way.
Okay. Let's take a couple last questions before we wrap this up. And again, I apologize about my connection issues. I don't know what's going on over here.
No, it froze again. Heather and Eve from season 3 was the team I was thinking of. So thanks very much for that. There were those 2 seasons where they went to Scandinavia really early on, and I kind of confused them sometimes. And it's been a while. I haven't watched every season 3 times, and I haven't watched some of those old ones in a while. So we could probably take 1 or 2 more questions. We might be out of questions. I'm not sure. But perhaps, okay, here we go. Which team do I think doesn't know how to drive a stick shift? That's a very interesting question. I would say, well, I can tell you who I think does. Team Texas does know how to drive a stick shift. Motherboy does know how to drive a stick shift. You're from the South, you probably drive more complicated vehicles. I would say maybe the news team doesn't know how to drive a stick shift. Maybe Chack Attack. Justin and Diana definitely know how to drive a stick shift because they've seen a lot of the show. And Jeremiah Yap points out that Cambodia seems to be a popular location for CBS reality shows this year. That's a good point. We've been hearing a lot of Cambodia. I think they're trying to drum up tourism, I think, is Cambodia's thing. All right, well, I'm going to wait around. Rob is moving a little bit. Yes. I don't know if he's here.
I'm here, Jess.
I don't know how long you're going to be here. It's like as soon as I get going, you disappear again.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about this. I don't understand what's happening.
No, I'm the sorry one because everybody has to listen to me.
Yes.
Vamp 5 minutes. It's a lot more talking than I'm used to.
Yeah. All right. Let's take one last question and then
okay.
let's wrap up. From Ryan, is this season going to be based around a Team Texas versus Green Team rivalry? What's your gut reaction in 11 weeks from now? Are we still talking about Texas versus Team Green?
I think it's going to be the first half, and I think maybe one of them goes out early. That's my gut feeling.
Okay. All right. Jess, thank you for hanging in there with these technical issues. I'm not sure why Google Hangout. Maybe Google Hangouts said I've been doing too many blabs lately.
Yeah, blab is taking you away from the real action at Google. Yeah, see. Okay, you're moving. You're not talking. You're freaking me out, man. Yeah, Rob's frozen again, so I'm just gonna say. I'm going to tell Rob to remind me of how I close this out, and I'll close it out for him. I would like to remind everybody that this program is in part brought to us by the people that are patrons of Rob Has a Podcast, and you can support us on patreon.com. And if you do that, you get a lot of cool benefits. You get exclusive podcast content. If you get it in at a certain level, Rob will sign a picture for you. And you can also get into our private Facebook group, which is very much fun. It's a whole new angle on like getting to relate to other fans. It's very fun. Let's see. I hear some tapping around. We'll ask Rob, what do I say? Let's see. We all appreciate it when you become a patron at robbispodcast.com/patrons. And you can follow me on Twitter. I live tweet several reality shows, and it's always a very fun time. And I am at Haymaker Hattie, and Rob is at Rob Cesternino. And I hear some typing, so I think he's back.
No, I'm just banging the pen on the desk.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up before you disappear again.
Yeah, everybody, thanks so much. I'll have my exit interview with the dancers coming up on early next week, and hope you guys check it out. I'll also be live on Blab with Jordan Parhar for This Week in RHAP on Saturday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern. Jess, did you hear all that?
Yeah, I did hear all that. You're good. Okay. Wow. Nice pitching arm. We could use you on the Mets. Rob has gone away again.